What's up guys, Eric Thayne here from Cinema Mastery, and today we're going to be talking about lenses. So I know there's a lot of lens choices out there, and they range from low-end lenses, you can get them for around $100, or you can go up to crazy anamorphic lenses that are $20,000, $30,000 for a single lens. And sometimes it can be hard to know what you should get. But today, what I want to talk about is the two lenses that I use for pretty much every single shoot that I do, and they are these ones, the Sigma Art lenses. Now this one right here is a 50mm lens. It's a 1.4 aperture, which is awesome. And the second one that I have is the one that's on this camera right now, which is the Sigma 18-35, which is a 1.8 aperture. And the thing I love about these lenses is that they are super sharp and very clean. They produce a really beautiful, nice image. They have very low apertures, so this one being a 1.4 and that one a 1.8, which is awesome. And probably the best thing about these lenses is the price. You can get either one of these lenses for around $900. Now, for a lot of people, that might sound like a lot of money, but just know that relatively in the world of lenses, that is an insane price for the quality that you're getting for these. I think that the next comparable lens to these lenses would probably be the Canon L series lenses, which are also very good. Maybe not even like quite as good as these, but very similar. And those are like $2,000 and up for a single lens. And so the fact that you can get these for half the price is just absolutely insane. So these are the two lenses that I use actually on every shoot. And in fact, I actually rarely ever use this one. This 18-35 has become my workhorse lens for the last year or year and a half since I bought it. Every bit of our work that you look at that we shot in the last year to a year and a half was shot on this lens, whether it's a commercial shoot, whether it's a talking head, a fitness piece, luxury hotel brands, whatever we're doing, all of our commercial work we're shooting with this lens on a red Scarlett W camera. And so I don't even use this one that often, but I like having it because 50mm is a good focal length to have. For some specialized shots, I actually like to shoot most of it on 35. Now, Eric, why would you shoot most of your stuff on a single lens? And the reason is because I personally love the 35mm focal length. Now, most DPs out there and cinematographers in Hollywood have their preferences for what focal lengths they like to use. And I've just found that 35mm is kind of the sweet spot for me. That's where I like to work. Anything wider than 35, you start to get a lot of barrel distortion in the image. It kind of warps things. If you get really close to your subject with a 16mm lens, for example, their nose is going to look really big. Their eyes are going to start to bulge. It just doesn't look that good. And it can work for like landscape shots and things like that. But for the most part, I don't really like that look, and so I like to go a little bit longer. Now, I don't want to go too long because like with a 50mm lens, like if I'm trying to get a wide shot of a scene, then I have to stand like really far back in order to get the shot with a 50mm lens, and it tends to be too close. So the 35 is actually a really good sweet spot where I can get wide shots with it, but I can also go in and get close-up shots with it without getting too much barrel distortion and still getting a good look. So I kind of try to work within that range. Now you might ask, if you're shooting on a red camera, then why don't you go with like cinema lenses or anamorphic lenses for your shoots? And the reason is because I found that these are good enough. Like they do the job. These are just as good, I think, as most cinema lenses. The difference that you get is that with cinema lenses, you have real focus gears on them, and there's other few differences that will make them easier to use for video. These are meant for photography, technically, but I've got these little focus rings that I've put on these that make it work with a follow focus. So that solves that problem. And then otherwise, I think they're just really great lenses to use. And honestly, I've used cinema lenses and I've used higher end lenses on shoots, and I don't feel like the benefit outweighs the fact that like these are so lightweight and so easy to use. I would rather use one of these lenses instead of like a big heavy lens that doesn't give me the ability to change the focal length or give me like autofocus capabilities if I'm using a camera that has autofocus. So these lenses are a really good choice if you're on a budget and you need to find lenses that are going to work for you. I think they work well for low-end applications and for high-end stuff. And the thing is, like, a cinema lens, yeah, maybe can get you like a little bit better image, a little bit sharper image or things like that. But honestly, I don't really care so much about pixel perfect perfection. Pixel perfect quality. Pixel perfect quality. So I could get a cinema lens and I could get that pixel perfect quality, but a lot of times I'm not actually looking for that. I like to create films that have a human, natural quality to them. And a lot of times what that means is that like I don't want the lenses to be perfect. I don't want the camera to be perfect. That's the same reason why I don't shoot in super high resolution like 8K or shoot with really expensive, perfect lenses, because I like those artifacts that I get with cheaper lenses. I like the effects that I can get with sometimes with cheaper gear, like that soft quality to it that I think just looks really good. And you know, a lot of people out there talk about how lenses are more important than cameras. Like you'll hear people say you should invest in glass before you invest in camera gear, or your lenses are more important than the camera, or like lenses make the biggest difference in your work more so than cameras. And that's actually not always true. I think on the higher end of things, when you get into higher end camera systems and higher end lenses, you start to see that kind of thing. Because, for example, if you're shooting high end stuff, you're basically shooting on red or Arri cameras. I mean, that's like pretty much it. Like maybe there's like Blackmagic in there somewhere, but really it's red and Arri. And between red and Arri cameras, you're pretty much getting a very similar look. Obviously, they're not exactly the same, and people with a very keen eye for cinematography will be able to see big differences between them. But really, when it comes down to it, they're both producing very high quality images with good resolution, very good color science, good dynamic range, and so there's not a lot of variation in the look that you get out of those cameras. So cinematographers who are shooting on high-end systems, they're gonna use lenses to kind of craft that look in order to create their own style with the image, if you will. And so the lenses in the higher end market with anamorphic lenses and cinema lenses, they can vary drastically between two different lenses. A Cooke anamorphic lens looks very different from a Kowa anamorphic lens, and so on and so forth with any type of lens. On the high end of the market, they make a big difference. Now, for most people who are shooting on DSLRs or mirrorless cameras, you're actually gonna not see that big of a difference. The difference in cameras, I think on the lower end, actually is bigger than the difference in lenses. For example, if you're shooting on a Canon camera and a Sony camera, you're gonna see two very different images. But if you take a Sony lens and a Canon lens and you put them both on a Canon camera, you're not gonna see that much of a difference. See what I mean? So the difference is bigger the higher end you go. For most people who are just starting out shooting on DSLRs or mirrorless cameras, the lenses don't actually make that much of a difference. As long as you're working in a similar price range, you're probably going to get a similar quality of product. Obviously, cheaper ones are usually going to be lower quality, whereas more expensive ones are going to be higher quality. But as long as you're in the same range, like $1,000 to $2,000, it doesn't really matter what lens you pick. You're going to get pretty much the same image. So there you go. There's my 2 cents on lenses. Really, guys, go out there and find a lens that you like, stick to it, and make it happen. I've been using these lenses for the last 1.5 years. I plan to continue using them for a long time. They're great lenses. I don't like to fall into the trap of seeing all the new camera gear and trying to buy new stuff. These do the job, and they're great. So find a lens that you like, go out there, commit to it, make it happen, get to know that gear, and you'll get better and better with it, and you'll realize that you can actually create quality images with different types of gear, whether it's low end or high end. It doesn't matter so much like the quality of the gear. You are a filmmaker, and filmmaking is an art, and so your ability to create images that are beautiful is more important than the gear that you're using or the lenses that you choose. So anyway, there you go. Those are my thoughts on lenses, and we'll see you on the next one.